truck drivers and anyone else with calluses on their hands. I'm not sure if Dr. Peter Moresi has any on his hands, but he is a brilliant guy, and he joins us along with Lisa Booth, Boris Epshteyn, and Katrina Pearson. Katrina by phone, so let me go to you first. Ted Cruz in Wisconsin. I'm saying Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. In my mind, I look at the Trump math. I think he's got to do better there than a lot of people are saying, because we know he's got the Northeast and California. Cruz is starting to come on in Wisconsin, and Kasich coming on in Pennsylvania. Is there any worries in the Trump camp?
No, not at all. Mr. Trump's message has been quite consistent with the issues that are facing Americans, and particularly with the most recent events in Brussels. This is an area where you have also seen now Senator Cruz sort of pick up Donald Trump's message and run with it, and I think people see through that. We are at a point in this election cycle where people pretty much have an idea on where someone stands on these important issues, and I don't think that's going to change much.
Peter, on the economic side, despite this terror attack, I think the closer we get to November, the general election, it always comes back to the economy, the economy, the economy. You love Donald Trump's trade policies. I've never really heard you opine on what Ted Cruz's policies are, or if they will work for America. Is he saying the right things right now in Wisconsin?
Well, a lot of things he's saying are absolutely right. In my mind, two numbers really matter to the ordinary person, two economic indicators. Their paycheck and the price of gasoline. And their paycheck is terrible, and the price of gasoline is going to be rising the rest of this year. He talks about tax reform, which I think is extraordinarily important. I think if he just got Ted Cruz's tax reform, that would do a lot to lift the economy. Repealing Obamacare, that would do a lot. He doesn't agree with me on trade, but on the other issues, he's got a very sound platform. So I think that he's a very promising candidate.
Boris, the race seems to be getting a little tight in some of these areas here. The economy, we know Wisconsin, we know the Rust Belt. It's not the Rust Belt, but it's in that heartland area. And a lot of people think this is the key for any Republican to win in a general election. And certainly Donald Trump has scored well there.
Donald Trump's done well in Wisconsin. He did very well in Michigan. He's going to do well in Pennsylvania. He also puts New York in play. He's up by over 50 points in New York in the Republican primary, and he can win it in the general. Will be the first since Ronald Reagan of a Republican to win New York in the general election. So he puts a lot of these states in play that have issues. You know, New York, you look at upstate New York, that's just like the Rust Belt, right?
Sure.
Wisconsin is very similar to.
Well, when you have Mark Ruffalo deciding who gets jobs in upstate New York because he doesn't like fracking, it's a shame. It's a damn shame. That's exactly. But what Ted Cruz is saying, how do you differentiate their economic policies? Because Katrina more or less is saying that Ted Cruz is jumping on the Trump bandwagon. Is there a difference what they're talking when it comes to the economy?
The problem is that Ted Cruz hasn't proven to be successful. So he's putting out ideas that are very similar to what Donald Trump has been saying for now over 6 months. So effectively plagiarizing, so taking the page out of the Joe Biden playbook. And he's saying, well, these are mine. But especially on trade, you know, his position on trade is, well, we're going to have higher taxes. That's the same as a tariff. So he, again, is stealing Donald Trump's ideas, and American voters see through that.
Lisa Booth, how do you see this thing shaking out the next two critical contests, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania?
Charles, I think we're in the long haul here. I mean, this thing could go up and go up to June 7th and even potentially to the convention. I think we're in the long haul. Buckle up. There's going to be a lot of conversations, and we're really just going to have to take it contest by contest, because if you look at Wisconsin, there's obviously a lot of fear among Americans, and especially Republican voters, with the economy, and Ted Cruz just spoke to that. That's also something that Donald Trump has been very successful in tapping into, and Ted Cruz is eyeing Wisconsin, which looks like a close race, and you just heard him lay out his case to a bunch of different key demographics within the state and among Republican voters, and we're just going to have to take it contest to contest. Wisconsin's going to be a tough state. You're looking at a hybrid proportional state there. Then we go to New York, which is 95 delegates.
New York,
so it's going to be step by step here.
New York is a done deal. New York values comment will come back to bite Ted Cruz big time there. But we'll see this next one in the heartland. All right, guys, thank you very much. We'll come back to you a little later.
Looking around at what's taking place in politics today, it is so easy to get disheartened. Personalities come and go, but principles endure. Politics can be a battle of ideas, not a battle of insults.
Speaker Paul Ryan taking a not-so-veiled threat, Donald Trump, swipe rather at him. And now, well, he says, at least that's a report saying that he's backing Republicans, getting them ready to move away from the current GOP frontrunner. Mark Serrano, Al Cardenas, and Lisa Booth and Boris Epshteyn are back with us. Let me go to you on this, Mark. What do you make of this? I mean, Paul Ryan has been extraordinarily vocal for someone who took the job kicking, screaming, and very reluctant. He has stepped up, and it feels like he's going to use it for a launching pad, if not to hijack this election to set himself up for the next go-round. Is that what we want for the speaker?
No, this should serve as a warning today. His comments today should serve as a warning to both Cruz and Trump, Charles. Beware the seduction of the GOP establishment, because they will be like a tango dancer hiding a dagger in the back of her belt to stick in your back. That's exactly what's happened with, you heard Trump last week talk about, I've talked to Mitch McConnell and I've talked to Paul Ryan. Look, Paul Ryan will do everything he can to position himself or Mitt Romney to take the GOP nomination in Cleveland in July. And this is all part of that strategy. Do not believe Paul Ryan. Do not believe he's the sanctimonious poster child for the PC culture.
All right, Al, you were again the Republican Party chairman. I think you are a part of the so-called establishment. You were also backing Jeb Bush in all of this. Is Paul Ryan being responsible here? Is he trying to save the GOP from something? Is there something not nefarious about what's happening?
Listen, Paul Ryan is trying to marry passion with reason, and if you don't combine both forces, we don't win. He has no interest in being president. He said it, and I trust him. And I'm part of a conservative movement. I started as a Reagan conservative. I believe Jeb's a conservative. I think Ted Cruz is a conservative. I think if you married Ted Cruz's philosophy with Donald Trump's salesmanship, and you embed that with some reason that's being espoused by Paul Ryan, you got a winning formula. But there's a lot of adult work to do, and these kind of things that I'm hearing now in your program, they're not going to lead to a victory. They're going to lead to a 30% fortified rock-throwing minority, and that's not what we want. Let's welcome people who are new to the party and vigorous to the party, but let's also marry that with some reason without getting into a civil war.
All right, but Boris, Donald Trump is expanding the party. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of evidence. Democrats are coming on board.
Absolutely.
Independents are coming on board. So when you hear someone like a Paul Ryan or Al saying that they're afraid of him, what are they afraid of? What's going on here?
Well, the only candidate on the Republican side to expand the party is Donald Trump. Ted Cruz is from the wing of the party that wants to make the party smaller. He does not adhere to the Reagan adage, if you agree with me 80% of the time, you're on my side. So Donald Trump is the only one to expand the Republican tent. Now, as far as taking the best of every candidate and putting together this beautiful, perfect Frankenstein candidate, we can't do that. We have to deal with what we have, and Donald Trump is by far the best to win in November. Paul Ryan, now listen, those weren't strong attacks by Paul Ryan. Maybe the way I take it, it's a message to Donald Trump saying, I know you're the leader.
So you know the Trump family. Is there anyone around Donald Trump that can say, hey, take a listen to this and maybe listen to it? I mean, is he surrounded by yes people or sycophants, or can someone have an honest conversation and say, maybe Paul Ryan's not so bad and maybe he's trying to help you?
Listen, there are a lot of honest conversations going on around Donald Trump every day, and he's someone who listens not to just those who support him, but to those who criticize him as well, and you've seen that out there in the campaign. So he will undoubtedly listen to what Paul Ryan's saying, and he's been in touch with Paul Ryan, as we all know. So I think Paul Ryan is somebody who, down the line, when Trump is the nominee, is going to fall in line and support Donald Trump for president.
Lisa, Ted Cruz and the conservative movement, the very conservative camp, they continuously vote for Ted Cruz over and over again. And I think this is where the issue is. Does the GOP have to evolve, if you will, from that very conservative camp, particularly on social issues, into a more modern age to meet the populace? Or should they stay stuck to these core values that lose them election after election?
Well, I think they should focus on the economy. And the question with Donald Trump is absolutely, yes, he brings some people into the party, but then the question is, does he win? Does he pick up states like New York at the peril of losing states like Utah? And that's the question. We don't know. We're still moving through the primary process, and those are questions about the general election. But there's no doubt. What we do know is that Donald Trump makes some Republicans nervous. Politicians are typically very predictable, and you know where they're going. Donald Trump's playing a completely different game, for better or worse. And so that's why I think we're going to continue to see the Mitt Romneys, the Paul Ryans, the Jeb Bush step into the fray and make their voices heard about what they believe.
All right, guys, let's leave it right there. American lives. This is a bombshell. I'm not sure if you heard it, but the Obama administration has admitted